Ahead of this year's midterm elections, President Trump has repeatedly pushed for stricter election security. Missouri has followed suit on almost all his recommendations except one. Hannah Falcon explains why.
2 weeks ahead of Election Day, Missouri voters can participate in no excuse absentee voting.
When everybody has a seat at the table, democracy functions better.
Denise Lieberman with the Voter Protection Coalition tells me early voting periods create a smoother election process.
It really opens the doors for voters to have more opportunities to be able to vote when they're able to get there, rather than relying on having to take time off work on Election Day.
President Donald Trump continues to push for more election security measures. And while Missouri does abide by most of his suggestions already, the Show Me State doesn't have an early voting option. Secretary of State Denny Hoskins explains it's likely here to stay.
So I think he had a lot of good concerns, but I think a lot of those things we're already doing here in the state of Missouri.
One of the things he pointed out that Missouri is currently doing is absentee voting,
yes,
early voting. Do you think Missouri should continue to have early voting options?
Yes, I think so. I mean, the 2-week no excuse option has been very popular. I've always said that I firmly believe in only voting on Election Day unless you're sick or disabled or military or have a valid excuse. However, I don't see that changing anytime soon unless the legislature would pass a bill that eliminates the 2-week early voting period.
This August primary, voter turnout is expected to be between 20 and 70%, depending on the county, with an average of 32% statewide, according to the Secretary of State's office. Voter turnout is expected to be higher than usual for a midterm primary because of the 4 amendments on the ballot. Missourians can cast an early ballot Saturday or Monday or vote on Election Day Tuesday. Reporting in Jefferson City, I'm Hannah Falcon.